Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we're going to recap ADCC East Coast Trials Day 2. If you haven't listened to our Day 1 recap, we did it live from Atlantic City in the hotel room. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host.
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing good. So this is just going to be Day 2. This is just going to be the finals, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the athletes who run through the divisions, especially the guys like at 66, because that's pretty much where the majority of the upsets in the tournament happen. There were a lot of upsets, and a lot of guys that could have, like, matches could have gone either way, and then one guy is the victor, where it's like not really correct to call it an upset. You have a lot of high-ranked guys. Only one of them can take a slot for trials.
True.
This is the first time I listen to Grappling Rewind. Let me give you a kind of a primer for what we're going to talk about. Usually week to week, we break down the professional jiu-jitsu action from the week prior. We were out here at ADCC, which is about 2.5 hours from me, similar for you.
Yeah.
In Atlantic City, New Jersey. We were there all weekend. I did some interviews with some athletes. If you want to see those interviews, you can find Grappling Rewind on YouTube. I'm going to post all the interviews I did with some of the athletes up there over the next couple of days, so you can find them. You can also find interviews that I did with like Gordon and Gary Tonin and Nicky Ryan back ADCC 2019 World Championships. Did a couple of interviews in the 2022 World Championships, like some years of interviews that I've done, and doing some more here at Trials. We're going to recap Day 2, some of the storylines, some of the finals, and just generally how the event went.
Random shit that we have found entertaining.
Yeah, basically like the weekend tournament. It was a great tournament. If you ever get a chance to go to an ADCC Trials, they're awesome. Me and my wife went, and we had a great time. You were there with us. Yep. We had a great time. A bunch of folks from our teams went, had a great time. And overall, it's just awesome to see the community in these venues. And you're like, oh, that's that guy, that's that guy, that's that guy. And everyone's so friendly and kind of welcoming to talk to. And you just see some of the highest level jiu-jitsu that exists in our sport, right in front of you. And it's almost like a really intimate environment for trials, because ADCC doesn't have barriers and blockades that prevent you from this time. They have prior, but for this event, and a lot of times, especially for the opens and stuff, they just, you have pretty free reign to be about as close to the mat as you want. I'm going to talk about it here.
Except for the one ref that kept on yelling at people.
Except for the one ref that doesn't like people close to his mat.
He doesn't like people near him at all.
ADCC has has my favorite rule set. I got a big ass ADCC hoodie on for a reason.
I have one too.
You have the gray one though.
I have the gray one.
I do some judging and refereeing for ADCC as well. Kind of full disclosure on that. But this I was just doing media for. I love ADCC's rules because it pushes a level of action and activity in both the way that the referees and the judges will call the athletes for action. This comes up a bunch in the finals matches.
Yeah.
And I also love ADCC because there are no boundaries.
I love that. That's my most favorite thing ever.
And I love that the finals for these events is, in prior finals.
I do have to say finals was driving me crazy because they basically took a mat that was 8 mats and they made it into 1 mat for finals. But they didn't have a square.
So I was literally just going to talk about this.
It was driving me absolutely my brain was like, you're in the middle of 4 mats right now. Like, where the fuck are
the edges? And there are no edges. It's ADCC.
And I get there are no edges, but still, give me something to look at.
So what I liked, so you didn't like that. I specifically liked it because in prior, especially I remember them doing it a lot more in East Coast Trials 2 years ago. That was at the Showboat where they brought it down to 3 mats for the final day.
Well, but they had the little squares.
They had the square mats.
Yeah.
But they kept the athletes sort of on that center, bigger mat.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you had like a bunch of resets. For this one, they didn't reorganize the mats at all. It was 8 mats, and they started basically in the center of the 2 mats as the center point, and they let the athletes just work to wherever they felt the need to.
I get that, but we need some tape.
I thought
we
it was perfect. Maybe a little square for you to see it.
Something.
I actually love that it was that big a space because the ADCC has what I call the splash zone.
Yeah.
And for the trials, especially because the mats are a little smaller, there's 8 of them in that area. The carpeted area that is not mat space can get close. ADCC doesn't care. Like, hey man, there's no ability to play the boundaries in ADCC because there are no boundaries.
And I love that.
And it's great because it forces athletes to, they can't fake and play the edge and push guys to the edge. Like, if you want to shoot on the edge of the mat, that's fine. My ADC's like, that is available space and real estate for you to use.
Yeah.
At the referee's discretion, he will get in front of you. He will stop the match if he thinks you're going to dive through the judges' table. But if you want to do that, like, you are available to do that, and it's at the referee's discretion to allow you or not allow you to do that.
The other thing that's awesome is whatever you land in when you're out of bounds, you come in and you keep that position.
Yeah.
So it's not like IBJJF where if you land a takedown out of bounds that you come in and have to stand back up. You actually get whatever real estate you take.
Not even like out of bounds. Like, they let you play until they have a spot they can stop you out of bounds. And so the splash zone comes in because as the athletes get closer to the edge, if you are on the edge of the mat, you are expected to get up. You are expected to get the people behind you out of the way. You're expected to get any chairs or anything else that is next to the mat. As a spectator on the edge of the mat, you are part of it. You are expected to clear the splash zone to let the athletes have the space. So I had to do this a couple of times this weekend, and also, like, specifically almost ran over Dorian Olivarez trying to get out of the way as he was shooting out of bounds for a takedown.
Me and your wife were at mat 1, on the side of mat 1. And there were multiple times we had to kind of escape.
Yeah, but you have to be ready and watching. But it's one of the things I really love about ADCC is because as a result, you get so much less of that, like, not gamesmanship, but like playing the rule set where it's like, oh, is the ref going to let me do it or not? It's like ADCC goes, hey man, you're not working hard enough. Push for a takedown in whatever direction you want.
Yeah, and you get less of people like just bullying you out of bounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like in lower level tournaments, a lot of times they'll just walk you out of bounds because it's as a bully tactic so that you fuck up so that you do something stupid. And you don't really have that option here, which I think is great.
Because you're forced to push forward. If you have someone pushing you out, you are forced to react because they're going to give you passivity as the guy getting pushed out. If a guy is pushing the center and moving, you are expected to move into them and put up offense. They're expected to also shoot, but like, you guys are expected to meet in the middle in ADCC, and that lack of boundary really goes, yeah man, he's allowed to push you in that direction as far as you let him, and if you don't stop him, that is on you. You are required to be doing that. And so again, I just think it's good. I also love the finals are 2 minutes longer with a 4-minute overtime, so 4 minutes no points, 4 minutes points, with the negative for the guard pull happening immediately, which is a particular rule set for the finals. But the majority of matches this weekend, like a couple thousand matches this weekend in the adult pro divisions, were all 6 minutes. 6-minute matches, 3 minutes points, 3 minutes no points, with the negative for the guard pull happening in the second half of the match. And the only really big change is that the finals are 2 4-minute sections, with the guard pull negative happening immediately. And then if there's an overtime, if there's non-scoring at the end of regulation time, it moves into a stand-up where both people restart immediately into the center with 4 additional minutes to work, with, again, the guard pull negative being in play. So, again, it's a great rule set. The finals were quick. None of the matches felt like, man, this is really dragging on. This is taking a long time. And that is such a rarity to have. And even the slow matches, again, are only usually 6 minutes. And so it's like, it's kind of a blip in your day with so many other high-level matches around you.
But you really didn't
awesome.
You really didn't get any boring matches. Because I'm trying to think and the thing that did kind of piss me off is that sometimes they were both trying to work on takedowns and they started getting passivity. Like,
I loved it. I loved it.
But I mean, what you gonna do? Like,
work takedowns harder.
The two gentlemen that I was watching, they both were like literally shooting on each other, turning the corners, doing everything you're supposed to do to try to get takedowns, but neither of them were taking each other down. And they started freaking calling out penalties for them. And I was like, and their faces, they looked at the ref like, what the fuck?
I love it.
And like, it was.
Look, ADCC expects you to work at a pace that a lot of people and a lot of like athletes aren't used. Like, they have an expectation of pace and forward progression.
But it's a 6-minute match.
Yeah, because
as an athlete,
go for it.
I'm not a pro athlete. I train how many times a week? I can push for 6 minutes if I have to.
Yeah,
like,
I can't do it for 8 matches probably, but like, I'm also not a pro athlete.
But I could do like 3.
Yeah.
And this wasn't that far into the day.
But that's also why I love that shorter rule set, because you don't get those little feeling out processes. You don't get, like, it fixes so many issues that we have as a spectator sport for jiu-jitsu and for grappling. And that's really what ADCC is pushing specifically, is like, they want to make the sport spectator friendly for like, hey man, maybe you don't train jiu-jitsu.
I also liked how they kept on saying everybody that's on the floor needs to sit down. You cannot stand on the floor, and then no one would sit down. No one was listening.
Everyone's excited. So I think it was great.
Okay.
So let's get into it. Where do you want to start? So again, the event was great.
We're going
Go
to start
to
at men's
ADCC.
66.
West Coast trials are happening on, I think, the 30th of March in Vegas, and the World Champions are happening in August, like 14th or 17th or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
In Vegas. Tickets go on sale Black Friday. It's at the T-Mobile Arena. The last 2 World Championships that I've been
they
to.
should have put it in the Sphere so it can make dirty looks at us the whole time.
That'd be awesome. I'm so excited for the Sphere. We got to go to the Sphere when we're in Vegas for either trials or the World Championships. But it's an awesome event. I would recommend, if you're listening to the show, get ready to buy tickets, get ready to book flights. The last 2 World Championships have been 2 of the most fun trips my wife and I have been to. And Rachel, she was like, I'm excited to go back to Vegas. Like she
really?
likes, she likes.
Dude, Vegas drives
we
me
both had a great time in Vegas. We both love going to Vegas. And we
I'm
didn't
not a
think we'd be
fan,
Vegas
but
people.
I just keep on going to Vegas so many times. It's getting annoying.
We'll bring you along again. It's great. So let's move on. Let's start at the men's 66 kilogram division, which is not the order that they ran the finals in, but it is the order that BJJ Heroes does have the results listed out. And that's what I'm using for my notes this week because I was Matt's side.
I'm just a psycho person. I like to start at the beginning. The beginning in my mind is 66.
Yeah, the weight goes up from there.
Yes,
like everyone
we go up from there.
Everyone starts 66 at some point in their life. Some guys just end at plus 99.
Yes.
So you did a crazy person thing.
Yeah,
and
I did.
You went through the 2 finalists. We had Dominic Mejia, and I did an interview with Dominic. I apologize if I've butchered your last name. I asked you in the interview, and then now we're in the podcast, and I'm like getting cold feet on the pronunciation of his last name. He is a guy that we're gonna.
I think it's Mija.
Mija?
Yeah.
Dominic Mejia. He's a guy we're going to see a lot more of. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago on Enigma, and I was really impressed with him then. It was like, oh, look at this guy, and he's exciting. Little did we know that he was going to take silver at trials versus another guy that we talked about a couple of months ago.
And I didn't really know who he was, but he had a rash guard that looked like a firefighter, and I was like, that's the guy with the firefighter rash guard. That's how I found him. Anyway.
And then he went against Dorian Olivarez in the finals, who is a 17-year-old, multiple-time state wrestler champion. He's a guy
4-time All-American.
He's won every youth tournament.
In Texas.
Every youth tournament wrestling event that there is. And I had some folks like look up some of his wrestling stuff because I had no idea what I was looking at. They're like, yes, he has been a very good wrestler for a long time. He's 17.
Yeah.
Ain't no country for old men. He takes gold. Both of these guys were not the top seeds. Dorian was pretty highly seeded. Dominic, I think, had decent seeding as well. But
they both had buys, so they were seeded at least decently.
I think Dominic had a bunch of ADCC open wins.
He has like 4 ADCC open wins.
And Dorian has a couple as well. And I was actually a head judge for ADCC in Dallas for that open. And Dorian was in the 65 kilogram division on my mat. And I was super impressed with him. And we talked about him a little on the show for that recap at Dallas. And then he wins, I think 3 weeks later and won Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds as the youngest Combat Jiu-Jitsu World Champion ever. And it kind of put more people on his radar. And then the guys at B Team have been talking about him for almost close to a year.
Yeah, they've been talking to him about him for a while.
He's a 16-year-old kid, and he's 17 years old, and he is a world beater. He ends up in finals. Both these guys had to go through, former winners, former world champion level competitors, and they beat them all.
Yeah.
And so Miranda actually went through and pulled both of their runs through their divisions because there's a bunch of upsets.
Basically, most of the upsets of 66 were done by these 2 gentlemen, if not all of them, really all of them. So Dominic, who wound up placing second, he's our silver medalist. He beat both Corbeys in a row.
Yeah.
He went against the brothers in a row.
He went against Gavin Corbray and DeAndre Corbray, and I was actually Matt's side for the Gavin Corbray match, and
DeAndre was first.
And then
stay in order.
Sorry, I got excited. I was Matt's side for the match. I got excited.
DeAndre Corbray, he beats 3-0, and then we go to Gavin Corbray, and
he submits him with an armbar off the top, so he gets his back a little bit. Gavin does a great job of shucking him. Dominic slides to the side, slides off to get the arm, and then he locks it back up the arm.
Yeah.
And then Gavin does a great outside. It's not the hitchhiker escape, but it's the escape where you run the other way essentially off the belly down. And I was like, oh, he's out, and I'm literally 2.5 feet away from this action, and then Dominic goes, oh, cool. He spins the leg back around, goes back belly down and out, and gets Gavin. And we know Gavin because I've commentated a bunch of his matches for Copa Virginia over the past 2 years. We've watched his Pans runs. We watched him and his brothers runs. And, like, they're local to us. They're probably about 45 minutes from me.
Yeah.
Some of my coaches actually go and train with them in that room. And so it's like I'm very familiar with Gavin's game. And I know how much of a world beater he is locally. So to see a guy, like, be able to submit him, I was like, ooh, Dominic is absolutely the real deal here in kind of going into this bracket. But you're always kind of wondering when you see this, like, how far is the guy going to go? Well, Dominic kept it going.
And then after that, he went against Keith Krikorian.
Right. For a 4-time silver medal, 3-time in a row silver medalist at trials. And then the last West Coast trials, which is the most recent North American trials, Keith wins the whole thing, gets gold, punches his second ticket to the ADCC World Championship. So it's like, okay, well, can you get around probably the most experienced trials competitor in your division, and now the current, like, not defending, actually, no, technically the defending North American trials champion, because every year is a trials North American champion, the defending North American champion, and Dominic's able to do it.
Yep, and he beats him by scoring 3.
Yeah, 3-0.
Which
So, like,
is, which was a very sad sight to see.
I like Keith.
I like Keith a lot.
We're huge fans of Keith.
That made me sad.
Go back, and if you like Keith, go back and listen to the interview I did of him at West Coast Trials. It's awesome to see him, like, win that, and then he kind of carries that through in the interview we did.
And in that match, if I remember it correctly, he just kind of, like, was just constantly moving. Because he's young as fuck. So he just constantly moves. He tries to pass, and it's just constant movement.
Did we look up Dominic? Do we know anything about Dominic's wrestling? I was really impressed.
I looked him up, but I couldn't find a shit ton on him. It looks like he was a juvenile jiu-jitsu champion at some point. Because, like, I don't know. When I went to his page, it's mostly the recent stuff. He's a brown belt.
So he just made Dominic, more about him. He just made the transition to New Wave from California. And so in the interview I did with him after the trials, he talks a little bit about his training situation prior, and then just actually recently moving down for the last couple of months to New Wave, and then signing a lease and actually moving full time down to Austin to get better training for under 66 kilos. And so it's like, I'm curious what I wish I would have asked him if he had a background.
He has to.
Yeah, his wrestling is too good for him to not have a background, or it's something that he has really been prioritizing heavy, because you can see him versus, again, 66 is a bunch of wrestlers, a bunch of guys that can move, have pace and activity, and he looked right there, even with a guy like Dorian Olivarez in the finals. Like, Dorian, I think, has 500 or 700 wrestling matches, multiple time state champion, All-American. Like, in jiu-jitsu in the 66 kilo division, Dorian is probably the best North American wrestler that was in this tournament, not even at 66 kilos, but just in general, like current. Have guys that have big standings, or have medals or world stage medals previously, but Dorian is probably the most current, active, champion-level male wrestler in this tournament. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Send me a DM.
It doesn't look like wrestling. It looks more just like jiu-jitsu from birth.
Well, it shows, dude. Dude can wrestle, and I was really impressed with the way he shoots in, gets to the side, and was able to get a lot of guys down or out sprawl guys, and the distance and speed that he can get out of a sprawl and then re-attack. Like, the speed for Dominic was something that really, really impressed me. Guys at 66 are fast. We know they're fast, but for him to maintain that level of speed throughout the entire weekend, super impressive.
Yeah. No, it just looks like jiu-jitsu from birth, basically. So, and a very good upbringing in jiu-jitsu. So that was him. And then we go to Dorian, who went through, let's see who the first one, beat Gianni Grippo.
Yeah, that match, he just hit Gianni with pace and passing and passing and passing.
It was 0-0. He won because Gianni pulled.
Yeah.
But going against Dorian, do you think you're really going to take him down? No.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
So I'm sure Gianni said
so
to
what
himself,
I haven't seen the match yet. I saw part of the match, but
Yeah.
it was the match next to me while I forget what match it was. I was watching the match in front of me while that match was happening. You'll see a trend here for the recap is that happened for a lot of the matches, especially the earlier matches in the tournament.
Well, and sometimes you're watching one match and then you look over to another match because something happens and you look back and the match is over and you're like, what the fuck? I missed what I was doing.
Almost every Jacob Couch match for that reason, where it's like I turn away, I come back like, oh, that's not Jacob Couch anymore.
Or
he must
like
have
they're
submitted
coming,
someone.
or they're like coming towards you and you're like, oh fuck, I need to get out of the way of these two fuckers coming towards me.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the matches you're watching is gone.
Yep. So he basically, what I heard is that Grippo essentially shot and then pulled within the 3 seconds. So he didn't finish the takedown. He wasn't able to drive forward. So in ADCC, if you sort of want to pull guard in the points period, normally if you just do a standard pull, you get assessed a -1, a penalty for that, and that goes against your score. If you want to do that, you have to commit to a takedown and drive and look actively for a takedown. Actually be looking to take the person down for 3 sustained seconds.
It was in overtime.
Yeah, it was a pull. What I heard was it was a pull in overtime because he didn't drive fully for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
He came under when that was the deciding factor. But again, Johnny Grippo's been to ADCC twice, I think.
Yeah.
5-time PANS champion, world medalist
and they
for
also
a
have
bunch of years.
They have the Gianni Grippo rule.
Yeah.
Which is because Gianni Grippo almost got freaking slammed.
Yeah,
in his
Anthony
neck.
Burchak at at the last East Coast trials.
Yeah.
Grippo was backpacked on him, and Burchak at the time, you can slam any way you want when you're in a submission.
Yeah.
Grippo's slamming him. Burchak slams forward, and basically it's a neck breaker.
And exactly what you said. He grabbed a leg and kind of hopped a little bit and then sat to his butt.
Yep.
So.
And so that rule now exists that you cannot roll forward if someone has both hooks in anymore because it puts the pressure on the neck. And so
it's the Grippo
it's
rule.
the Grippo rule. Because Grippo is now the last person to be legally slammed by a backpack slam like that, forward.
Yeah. And then after doing that, he goes against a few more matches.
I can never get Siraz's name, Bertram, from Fight Sport.
Oh, Siraj.
Yeah.
Well, he submitted Siraj, and then he goes against Ethan Krellenstein.
And they train together. Which
together.
I thought those matches are always interesting when you have like a young up and coming prospect like Dorian and like your former trials champion, former world entrant. You're always kind of curious if the young gun has, because we've seen it, especially in matches recently. We saw Josh Hinger versus Ty Rotolo at the World Championships, and Hinger was able to take that match. Obviously, it's like you've trained him, and they have a much longer training history than Ethan and Dorian do. But it's always interesting when can the young prospect take out the old veteran, or does the old veteran have that savvy and they know the young prospect's game well enough? And Dorian here was able to sort of overcome that and take out Krellenstein. And he just pushed a pace on Ethan the entire time. And Ethan, to his credit, man, kept up the pace.
He kept his guard, which was freaking surprising.
Yeah.
Like, he did some crazy, inverts with it.
He had amazing guard retention here, but Dorian was just in his chest the entire time and looking to pass, and just he kept that diligent, low wrestler passing stance this entire tournament. But you can see it most in the match with Grippo and the match with Ethan, where he's just, and even the finals with Dominic, where he's just super low and he's just head in the chest and at the hips, down, down, down. And you can see by the end of the day, Dorian's face is all scratched up and kind of scarred up from years of doing this, but also just being willing to lead into the hips
with your head. Yeah.
And Dominic and Dorian were both just caught up at the end of this entire tournament. Remember me a lot of Gaudio and Hulk in 2019, where both of them at the end of the tournament were just you could tell how
PJ
beat up their
Barch's
faces
face
were.
was all jacked up after the last one too.
There's a lot of guys and that's sort of, it's a mark of a wrestler, is you can tell who usually the better guy is by how marked up their faces, because they're just willing to stay in that pocket, in that spot. But he gets by Ethan. Was it a decision or was it score?
It was score 0-0, so it means Ethan pulled in overtime.
Right. Yes. The results we have don't list negatives.
But I watched this one,
okay,
and I remember this because Ethan tried to stand with him for a while.
You're not going to take.
Then
I am super curious now how Dorian takes on a guy like Baby Shark or Fabrizio, the top level guys, because it's I don't know. Nobody could stand with him. No. Aside from Dominic. Dominic looked good in the standing, but eventually went to his back and played guard in their finals match. But nobody else in the tournament that I saw, at least, really had a good answer for the speed and pace that Dorian had on the feet.
No,
and I'm curious once he runs into more like world level guys, more so than he ran into at Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds, at West Coast Trials, like what, if anyone's going to have an answer, for like a technical answer or a physical answer, some sort of answer to a young prospect wrestler that can just be in your face at that speed with that speed the whole time.
And when he went against Krellinston, what Krellinston did was Olivarez had him down, and then he turtled, and as he turtled, he kind of sank his hips to the mat and kind of wiggled away. And as he was doing that, Olivarez pushed away from him, and he pushed away. He just kind of sat to his butt to guard.
Oh,
and
really?
I guess because he was the one being taken down, that then sitting to guard from that position gave him the -1, as opposed to being the one that's doing the action and then sitting.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay.
That's just, again, it's crazy.
Because in theory, what you're saying is he would have been taken down otherwise, and dude would have gotten points for that.
Yes.
But
Dorian
instead of having that happen, you sat.
So
to
because
guard.
Dorian didn't settle the takedown, Ethan pulled behind him and went away.
Yeah.
Ethan gets the -1.
Yeah.
Is how I'm understanding
yes.
how you explained it.
Yes.
So finals match, Dominic and Dorian. Any more? That's the last person he runs through.
Yeah, that's the gist of it all.
Dorian wins it on was it points?
Or
was
it score 6-0?
Yeah. Dorian's good, man.
This was and it was just a wrestling match. They just wrestled the fuck.
But it was a young guy, fast paced action wrestling match where both guys could actually wrestle. I was impressed with both guys. At no point did you see like, oh yeah, he's having problems here. Or like both guys had great answers. Both guys had great reshots. Both guys would do the spin out of a shot and then reshot into it. Like you just saw a great collection of techniques. Both guys can leg lock. Both guys can defend leg locks. Like, Dorian can pass guard. Dominic, I don't think Dorian was on his back for much, if at all, of this match.
No.
Dorian really seems like the one that's going to impose more from the top position. I'm curious if anyone can put him on his back. I think when I was in Dallas, I saw him play from his back a little bit, but I don't think it was for prolonged periods of time. I could be incorrect about that.
It looks like Mija's the one who would rather sit and go into.
Mija has a very good
legs
guard, and like we saw him over the weekend hit a bunch of subs from guard, either the triangles or going for the leg locks. We saw him hit a bunch of arm bars. Very good, well-rounded game from the guard. So it doesn't surprise me that very willing to sit there.
Yeah.
So go back and watch the finals match. It's amazing. Do you have anything else on 66?
Then we did have Krellinston beating Keith for third place. That was also a sad day.
Yeah.
Sad time.
It sucks because there's so many guys that I'm a super big, again,
I know,
guys
and
in my
I
division,
like both of them. So it's only, I would have been sad if either of them lost.
I have this weird soft spot for 66 because it's the lowest men's division. So it's like you got to get a cacophony of everyone that really isn't any bigger than about 160 coming in that division. And they're my people.
Yeah.
And there's also there's a lot of good guys, like good people. And not like just like, oh, technique wise, but like, oh, he's a good, like, Keith's a nice guy, Johnny's a nice guy, like nice guy. So it sucks to watch them. Oh man, that guy's nice. I hate to see him lose. There's a lot of that in 66 personally. Not that the other guys, there's not great folks.
No, and like
divisions.
I said, either of them I would have been sad about seeing them lose. So, but you had Krellinston beat Krikorian 5-0 for third place, and then we go into 77, and the one development of 77 that happened overnight was
this sucks.
Was that John Satava was injured.
Yeah, former trials winner 2017? 2018.
I don't know, back in the day.
Or maybe 15.
Back in the day.
I think Satava has a bunch of trials placements, and he at least has one trials win. Because that's what brought him to the World Championship, was a trials win.
Yeah.
But he was injured, and so replacing him
was Sid
Travala,
yeah.
Yeah, and I watched a bunch of Sid's matches day one, and I didn't see how he got eliminated, but with Satava out, you can't.
Satava took him out. So when Satava went out, when Satava went out, Sid was the last one he won against. Yeah. So they brought Sid back in.
And I think that's the way to do it. Again, because what I like about ADCC is they're absolutely not going to give someone a bye in day two. Like that's just day one. It's like, okay, you can't really, you have as many registrations as you have. The big names have earned the bye, but day 2, that is such an advantage to guys. You just can't do that. So I like that they did bring Sid back in. He is eliminated, later in the tournament, but I like that that's the right thing to do, and I'm happy that ADCC is willing to bring guys back in to fill those slots, so it's not a day 2 bye, because that's such a powerful leg up on guys.
Oh, definitely. But then, so day 2 began the round of 32. So, and in that round, we lost both Leclerc. We lost
Pierre Leclerc.
We lost Sergio Ardilla.
Mm-hmm.
We lost
Paulo Diller's brother.
Yeah, we lost AJ Agazarm all at that round.
Yeah, right. Which is I think farther than which is earlier than we expected most of those guys to go out.
Yeah,
personally,
and John Combs took out Sergio Ardilla. Which I was like, huh. But
that's unfortunate bracketing. Because Combs is a former trials winner, so it's like.
And Combs, up to that point, Combs was, up to the point of him losing later in the next round. I mean, he was doing really well. Mm-hmm. I was watching all of his matches. He was definitely getting at it.
It was the best, some of the most consistent version of Combs that we've seen. But again, he's been doing the Opens. He won Chicago Open, and we know that he's really focusing back in on ADCC, and he's been talking about it. He's been doing interviews about it, and we've seen him kind of restructure his camp a little bit to focus back on these sort of events, and that really did show through here for all of his performances on the weekend.
Yeah. So, do you want to go to the finals, and then we can
77. So there was so many fun guys in 77. This was moving into the finals. So finals, we have Elijah Dorsey versus Nicky Ryan, and Nicky Ryan looked unbeatable leading up to
Nicky Ryan beat Cody Steele in 52 seconds.
Yeah,
and Cody Steele is not.
Cody Steele was having one of the tournaments of his life. He looked as good as Cody Steele looks. It was the same pressure wrestling. I did an interview with Cody Steele that'll be out hopefully in the next couple of days on the Grappling Rewind. You can find it and listen on YouTube.
I mean, Nicky was on a good run himself.
Yeah. I think he submitted everyone up until the finals. He beats Cody Steele by outside heel hook in the quarterfinals.
And then Kurchuk.
By outside heel hook in the semifinals.
How do you say that name?
Kurchuk.
Mm-hmm. He beats Kurchuk.
I also did an interview with Kieran, and he corrects me on the name, and I appreciate that because we've been butchering his name for 2.5 years at this point at least.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For a while.
Oh, wow. He's now fully at B team now, so it was interesting because we had Nicky Ryan and Cody Steele, which are both out of Austin, Texas now. Yeah. Cody Steele's out of Brazilian Fight Factory with William Tackett and Caleb Tackett and Andrew Tackett, all the Tackett brothers, and Nicky Ryan's now on a B team, and I don't think the gyms are that far, but these guys see each other.
Yeah, I'm sure they see each other regularly.
A lot, so it's funny. And then we move into the next round, Nicky Ryan versus Kieran Kurchuk.
Yeah.
And both those guys, I think, are instructors at B team. So it's you had a quarterfinal on.
Yeah.
And then Elijah is
and it was
local
kind of,
to us.
Yeah, and it was
TLI.
kind of interesting after a while because then you had earlier in the round of 16, you had Cody Steele beating Chris Wojcik, who's also a B team guy.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of B team guys and a lot of locals that definitely.
Austin in Texas is just a powerhouse. We have I think Dorian's from Houston.
Yeah.
He's now I think he's at B team now, but he's a Houston wrestler. Yeah. All the guys at B team, all the guys at New Wave are Austin. Austin is an absolute hub of no-gi jiu-jitsu, and that's I think reflected in no other division as well as in 77. Look at the quarterfinals. Elijah Dorsey, who is our way, beats Cade Tistos 5-0. Kieran beats Ernesto Rivera via triangle. Kieran's B team. Nicky Ryan versus Cody Steele is both Austin guys.
Yeah.
Then Oliver Taza is an Austin guy versus Max Hansen, who's somewhat kind of local to us. Ohio. Is he Ohio? Oh, you're right, because he's Midwest finishers.
He's with Dante.
Yeah.
And Dante's Ohio.
Mm-hmm. But he's the finishers champion and then the two division finishers champion.
No, he's the two division. Oh, I think he's the two division.
He's both, isn't he?
Both Midwest finishers and finishers champion.
Yeah. So he's Ohio, but again, you have half of your quarterfinals is Austin guys.
Yeah.
And then semifinals, Elijah Dorsey defeats Oliver Taza 3-0. Nicky Ryan defeats Kieran. Austin versus same gym, outside heel hook. And in the finals, we had Elijah Dorsey defeating Nicky Ryan. I think nobody expected that. Elijah Dorsey is very, very good. He's a newer TLI black belt.
He's been with TLI the whole time.
Yeah.
He's just a newer black belt.
So he's a newer black belt from TLI, but he's I think through his entire career been TLI.
Yeah, I believe so.
But he's not a guy. He's a guy that we know locally because his gym is 30 minutes down the road from us.
He'll show up at tournaments every once in a while and fuck people up
and just destroy people with locals. And you're like, hey man.
But he's normally a gi practitioner. I don't know how. I mean, he probably does IBJJF, but we really haven't seen, besides Kurchuk, we haven't seen many TLI guys really go in hard on the ADCC.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That Kieran and Elijah were both TLI.
Yeah,
until
but
this, but they didn't meet.
But Kieran was like, or Kieran is like, it was like
he's Canadian. Yeah.
TLI, which is different.
Yeah.
Yeah, than like Camp Springs TLI, where Elijah is Camp Springs.
It's down here in DC, in the DC area. This was Nicky Ryan playing guard, looking for the legs, looking for a submission like he'd been hitting all tournament that never came. Yeah. And Elijah was just on him. And
at the very end, Elijah's cartwheel passes were freaking wild.
Yeah. And so the TLI, I was right next to I was between the mats. Yeah. So I was between the two judges. I was right in front of the table doing some photography work. And you could hear very clearly all the TLI guys just consistently with just talking about the drills that those guys run. Like, hey, this is a 30-second drill. This is what we're doing. And, hey, they can feel that pressure. Make them feel that pressure. Just like Elijah kept his pressure low on Nicky Ryan the entire time and never let Nicky Ryan extend far enough away to build the space that he needs to either enter the legs, to get the back, to get, like, a triangle. Elijah was just... He had one of the most diligent performances of the entire tournament that I've seen, where it was like, you're putting enough pressure on Nicky that you are doing enough where you're not getting called for stalling. Yeah. But you're also not letting Nicky open up enough to get anything going. And you're keeping your arms in. But
we know from years of experience that TLI, they know how to game the system.
Absolutely.
They know how to play the system.
They have some of the Lloyd has some of the best game planning for
they created the sport. The rule about going out of bounds to escape submissions, like 2 points when you in IBJJF. They did that because of TLI. Yeah, because the TLI they were pulling people out of bounds to escape leg locks. Like they know how to. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
You play to your rule
but
set,
they know
and those
how to
guys
play.
Really know how to game plan.
They know how to play to a rule set and game plan.
And
very well.
We've seen a lot of champions come out of that camp that
just not very many no-gi champions.
DJ Jackson, Muhammad Ali, like we've seen a lot of really high level guys.
Yeah, but I guess DJ Jackson.
Yeah. Tim Spriggs.
True. Okay, maybe I'm wrong about this.
Keenan, JT Torres.
Keenan and JT Torres don't count because they left.
They were still got a lot of their tutelage from that
era. I don't consider that.
Not.
But
Ryan Hall.
if you think about it, all of Maryland that was good went to TLI.
Yeah, back in the day.
Until they all left because of
some issues.
Because of stuff.
But I mean, that camp has just repeatedly shown us that they can game plan at any rule set in the world. And Elijah here, like the game, Nicky Ryan is astonishingly. She looks so smooth this entire tournament, much kind of like his brother does, like that very similar style of like no urgency to the game. I'm gonna get you. Eventually, you're gonna make a little mistake. I'm gonna pull you into my game. I'm gonna get whatever I want. Elijah knows that. He knows, and they've planned for Nicky's game specifically, and he just shuts it down. And he keeps enough activity without ever letting Nicky Ryan open up. And because he never lets Nicky Ryan open up, he is the one pushing the action. He is the one pushing the pace. He is the one trying to pass. And he's never in Nicky Ryan's guard long enough for Nicky Ryan to start elevating or getting him going or turning him over. And he's the one initiating the passing and almost getting around Nicky Ryan's guard, forcing the regard. Like, it was a masterful game planned performance from Elijah Dorsey. Yeah. And I'm really curious to see because, again, he's a guy that well known in the IBJJF circuit, but on the no-gi circuit, I don't think he was on anyone's like top list for taking this tournament.
No, because I'm looking at his Instagram right now. And it's all gi pictures.
Yeah,
like all gi pictures.
It'll be interesting to see him at the World Championships because again, TLI has fielded plenty of guys before into the World Championships. I'm curious how much more tape the community and other folks in the 77 kilo division are going to pull, and if he's going to be able to replicate this performance. Again, 77 was, if not 77 and 88, the most stacked division of this tournament, where Nicky Ryan was the clear favorite, and to have Elijah Dorsey take a pretty convincing and clear decision win over him. Like, when that match finished, I don't really think anyone thought that Nicky Ryan was going to walk away with the victory there, and that surprised, I think, most of the arena.
Yeah.
Because Elijah Dorsey is not nearly as well known, and he absolutely is now.
It looks like he also does a ton of locals.
Yeah,
ton.
we see him. We've seen him at Naga.
Yeah, he's done a couple Nagas because he's at this one Naga.
Yeah, the TLI guys will jump into Naga. Yeah. I mean, I went against Malachi Edmond a couple years ago at a local that was like 5 minutes from my house here in Maryland.
Oh yeah, you went to that one.
Yeah,
I think I went to that one too. When I think about it, I think I did that.
Yeah, it's like, and then like I think Malachi was like ranked like 11th in the world at brown belt, and then gets black belt right after that, and then places second at the Worlds, and then went like So yeah, we see him occasionally, but Elijah's a guy that, again, not on a lot of guys' radar, but absolutely is now. Takes a beautifully game performance over Nicky Ryan. And then we have Oliver Taza defeating Kieran Kachuk via 2-0 for the third place. So look for, expect Nicky Ryan, Oliver Taza, Kieran Kachuk back at West Coast Trials to do it again. But yeah, really impressive performance from Elijah. Anything else in 77?
No.
All right, moving on to 88. These are all, I keep saying this, these are all fun divisions. Day 2 is so wild because you had a bunch of guys in your tournaments, really, and this kind of is for all the divisions, that it's like any other tournament, your big name guy's going to win.
Yeah.
But it's like day 2 comes around and it's like,
you have a lot of big names.
Oh, you have a lot of big names where it's like, and they're going to go against each other, and it's not going to be somebody's day. I realized this because I realized that Jacob Couch was going to have to go against J-Rod.
Yeah.
Day 2, I was like, oh, one of those guys is going to lose. Oh, I'm sad about that. That sucks. I love both those guys. I love watching them compete. I didn't expect only one of those big names is going to move on. It's funny. That was actually a rematch from recently, and Couch took that, I think, at a Who's Number 1 or something.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
No, but it doesn't surprise me.
So quarterfinals, we have Elder Cruz defeating Ryan Aiken 7-0. We have Jacob Couch defeating David Garmo via triangle. Couch gets this. I was Matt's side for this one.
Yeah.
Couch gets like the standard violent arm lock, like that arm crunch over the top, and then
from Butterfly,
he is flexible enough to posture Garmo down and shoot a triangle off of that violent arm lock.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and he hooks Garmo. Garmo slams a little bit, but Couch is able to get the arm across and finish the triangle. Really, again, impressive that Couch has that level of flexibility and kind of dexterity. Because flexibility and dexterity are two different things.
True.
Have both of them at 88 kilograms to be able to do that with a powerhouse like Garmo. Then we had Jacob Rodriguez defeating Stanley Rosa via policeman's lock, is what's listed in BJJ Heroes. I think that's like a hammer lock, or like a Kimura, but close, where it's pressed up behind your back.
Yeah, think about getting arrested.
I would like not to.
It's what cops do.
And then we had William Tackett defeating Jason Rao via points 2-0.
Jason Rao was having a really good run.
Dude, he almost broke Tackett's foot off his body in this match.
I know. Jason Rao was looking really good.
Jason Rao came out the gate in this match where I was like, ooh, Rao might take this over Tackett, because there was a couple of moments where he was into the legs deep and he was starting to get rolling, and Rao was a guy that you do not want to ever have rolling on your legs. Yeah. Kind of like Taza. If he gets going, he's going to break it.
He's also a big mofo. He's a lot bigger than you realize.
Rao has been one of those guys forever that's I always forget how
he's a heavyweight.
Yeah.
Or he competes at heavyweight.
Yeah, absolutely, almost 200 plus pounds.
Yeah.
But he has William Tackett's foot in a straight ankle lock, belly up, and you see Tackett's foot completely flat, and I'm trying to motion to the camera here, it extended up, and you see the white of the heel of the ankle separating, and I was like, man, Tackett's a gangster. He's just eating that, and he works out. Eventually outpoints Jason Rao, but he fought through some serious adversity.
Then it sometimes makes you wonder if that's why when William Tackett went against Elder Cruz, he didn't have the same movement that he had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If your foot gets really jacked up, then you can't move the same way.
It's going to affect the next match a little bit. Yeah, and really only William can speak to that, but you kind of got to wonder, with a guy like Rao on your feet looking to submit you and having you that deep a couple of times, how much of a factor did that play? So Elder Cruz takes out William Tackett in the semifinals 3-0. Then we have Jacob Couch defeating J-Rod, Jacob Rodriguez, via straight ankle lock. Was it a straight ankle lock or a heel hook?
25 seconds.
It's listed as straight ankle lock.
You can't
here.
see it because it's not on camera. That's the problem.
Okay.
It's your standard, like, it's nothing fancy.
I was 2 matches away here when I saw this.
I saw that this was on like the far mat and I was on the other side.
Yeah.
And they wore the same exact outfit.
They were on the level. They were the camo level. But
yeah.
So William
Tackett. They were wearing.
Who had it? William Tackett.
But the two of them come out
J-Rod
with the same freaking outfit, which I was like, oh, that's funny.
And it was
but
camouflage.
Jacob initially sits like immediately and just kind of goes into the legs, and I can't figure out if Jacob was trying to stand.
No, William Tackett, the third place match
or
between
not.
Jacob Rodriguez and
No, not that one. This one is. Oh yeah, I am. I'm looking at the wrong match. Ha ha.
Sorry,
okay.
but clarify. William Tackett and Jacob Rodriguez both had the camo brown level X black rash guard top and bottom.
My brain.
That's the third place match.
Yeah.
The Jacob Couch match. Jacob Couch had the pink shorts.
Yeah, he had the pink shorts.
And
and that was also a sub, but it was after 3 minutes.
It was a straight ankle lock.
Yeah, and so there maybe that's why J-Rod tapped so fast when William Tackett grabbed his foot.
Because maybe Couch had crushed his foot a little bit earlier.
Yeah, fucked it up.
I would actually wish I would have asked him because I interviewed J-Rod, and I really I tend to not.
It was just one of those like he didn't react the way that you should react, and he tapped way early. Like
usually we'll see J-Rod fight for ages, but William Tackett grabs it, hooks, and J-Rod just goes. You see him kind of
and you say
he kind of leans, and then he initially defends it, and then he taps, and it was. We're used to J-Rod like the Jed Hugh, the arm bar,
the arm
willing
going.
to fight, make a guy out, fight at anything. This was really quick, and you kind of wonder, well, maybe it's a third place match, and he knows that I eat this for no reason, and I just affect my camp and my preparation for my next matches, or there's an injury, or there's another X factor. But it's like there's, only he knows, and I had the chance to interview him. When I talk to guys about their matches after tournaments, I tend to never bring up the losses because I just find it a little disrespectful. I want to talk about the things that they did well in the tournament and usually don't want to belabor probably what they're not happy about. So I tend to avoid those just when I'm interviewing guys. But it would be interesting to know if potentially that affected his third place match or not. But it sucks to lose all those fun guys. In the finals match though, we can spend 30 minutes talking about this finals match. Jacob Couch defeats Elder Cruz via outside heel hook. Got a chance to interview Jacob Couch. It's going to be on Grappling Rewind. Jacob Couch, Elder Cruz tends to play a style. If you watched him at the ADCC Opens, you watched him at Who's Number One, you've watched him at ADCC. He plays a style where it's he will lull you into an inactive match. Yeah. And then at the end of the match, he'll start blasting, and he'll go, and he'll just ramp a pace on you at a speed you're not ready, because he's kind of moved you into this pace. He's sort of forced you to play into his range. He'll play on the outside, kind of like Pedro Mourinho does.
He's kind of like a stocky little gentleman.
Yeah, he's hard to move around, where it's he can wrestle pretty good, but he will pull out of stuff. He'll disengage from exchanges completely, kind of like Devontae Johnson will do, where it's if he doesn't like the exchange, he'll disengage completely and force you to readdress.
And that's why the Elder Cruz, Devontae Johnson match that we had years ago was not the most interesting match in the world to watch.
They both play a very, a match of you'll get bored and make the mistake first, and you're not going to stay not as bored, you're not going to stay as diligent in this speed of match as I need to. You're going to want to eventually, as an athlete, push the action. And Elder Cruz is one of the best guys in the division. It's just hey man, I'm going to force you to overcommit, and when you overcommit, I'm going to blast you. I'm going to torpedo you. I'm going to take the ground because you've had to commit. You get to go, then I get to go. And he's one of the best guys in the sport at doing that. Jacob Couch, he's able to get to the guard. Yeah. He's able to scoop under for the leg, and he's able to get a really beautiful outside heel hook in the finals. And then the dude earns his moment. Yeah. He finally wins East Coast Trials, and then rips the rash guard off, hugs his team, and then he does a full lap around the entire 8 mats, and he gives everyone on the outside a high five. He's screaming, he's yelling. Yeah. He's a guy, and I kind of wish more athletes would do this. Everyone in the arena was happy to see Couch win, because you know his background, you know where he's from, you've seen the match, you've seen his ups, you've seen him his downs. He's had been a huge part of the Daisy Fresh series that captured a bunch of people's hearts. Oh man, this guy just working towards a goal of being like a world champion guy and getting to the level and like now winning this super stacked division, he has his moment, he has his big win, and he celebrates it. And that whole arena took those moments to celebrate with him, and like everyone was cheering, everyone was happy to like, even the commentators, Jake Watson and Brandon McCaffrey, you know, they were doing commentary like, I gotta get in there too, and you both see him on the broadcast lean over and give him a high five as he runs by, and like usually commentary like won't do that, they'll talk about it, but it gives you an insight into the love that the community has for Couch and seeing him in this moment. And I wish that more athletes would, when they have built that, like what Couch has done, enjoy the moment.
The other crazy thing is, so right before finals, they gave us a break for what, an hour?
Yeah, an hour.
And we go to the chicken place to get food.
Yep.
And who walks in?
Jacob Couch. Everyone walks in because the chicken place is right there.
But like Jacob Couch comes walking in
with all the Pedigree guys,
and just sits down.
There.
I don't know if he was eating or not.
He was literally directly behind me, so I couldn't see him at all.
I was trying to creep to see exactly if he was like eating, because it makes it even more fun if he was sitting there like eating chicken right before he can.
Neither would surprise me.
But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either.
But I just love that he had that moment, and you got to see like him in the arena, like every other athlete. Most of the time in jiu-jitsu, they win. Maybe they have their shirt off. Maybe they raise their hand.
Yeah.
But ADCC, like, they let Couch have his moment. They're not going to DQ him because he's celebrating too much. Or like, it was great to see that personality come out of the sport, because we have these guys that have electric personalities like Couch. Like, lovable, great guy, great technique. You see him go through all of these matches, 7 for 7 finishes, subbed everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone else in the finals, maybe Levy. I'm not sure.
Levy, I think she's
not many people finish this entire tournament submitting everyone on the punching their ticket for the world championships. Couch has his moment. I'm hopefully going to cut some B-roll into here, or at least into his interview of these moments, because I love that the sport is, you know, Couch is building the following, like becoming a personality in the sport, because he has these moments, and it kind of feels like we're all having that moment because he kind of shares it with the community in a way that very few other guys kind of know how to do.
Yeah.
Because it's so genuine. So it's awesome to watch Jacob Couch. Great. I'm super happy he gave me an interview. We had tickets for the ADCC World Championships that we were able to we had an extra one. We were able to give him.
Yeah, Will gave it.
Yep, Will gave it to him. One of the guys, very friendly with the Grappling Rewind.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to watch him and ref some of his matches at the Open, versus he had a tough match with Andrew Tackett in the finals of that, and then to come through here and win trials with some great performances. It's just awesome to see that. Any other thoughts on 88?
Nope. We move on.
It was great. Let's move on to the under 99 kilogram division. Paul Ardilla is a gangster.
Yeah.
We looked him up before, because again, Paul Ardilla's won what?
Yeah.
How many of these things?
A bunch.
How many trials has he won? This is at least his second trial straight.
Yeah.
Because he won West Coast trials. He's now won East Coast trials.
Fourth.
His fourth trials win.
Yeah.
His 7th trials placement.
Yeah.
You're like, Paul Ardilla going to be in your division. Paul Ardilla probably going to win.
And then we look
Good luck, everyone.
And then we look at Paul Ardilla, and I knew he was an attorney. I'm in law, so I pay attention to these things. He's an attorney, but he's not just an attorney. Like, he went to Notre Dame Law, so he's actually he's a good attorney. He's a really good attorney,
and he runs his own practice.
Yeah, he runs his own practice
in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, it's wild,
and has some of the best personal injury claims in the state records.
Yeah, exactly.
For that, for what he has earned his clients. Paul Ardilla's a dude that is winning at life.
And he's a very good looking man.
He's a good
he's winning. He's kind of winning everything.
We try not to do that too much on the show.
Yeah.
That came up in the arena almost every time. It was like, man, he's good, and he's good looking too.
Yeah,
almost
because everybody gets mad when that happens,
because
because everybody wants the really good guy to be ugly.
It was just so funny.
No one wants the hot guy to be really good.
On top of that, Paul Ardilla walks out to the most banger walkout song that I had to look up on Shazam. It's a new song too, and so Paul Ardilla. So let's start with the matches as far as the Paul Ardilla love fest here. Paul Ardilla in his quarterfinals match beats Adam Bradley by rear naked choke. Bradley was looking good the whole tournament as well. He was
also eating a lot of sushi. I would see him at the sushi place every single time.
Paul Ardilla takes out Adrian Nez via 4 points in the semifinals, and then he goes on to take Alex Grandy in the finals, and
outside heel hook.
I think it was really funny, though. At the beginning of the match, Ardilla did a couple. We saw a bunch of the finals matches this happen.
Yeah.
Ardilla puts his leg out and does the take me down. Like, Gordon's done it.
Well, this match was the one that first started with Alex Grandy trying to take Paul Ardilla down.
From the jump.
And he just, like, looks at him like, whatever, motherfucker, you're not doing this. Like, and he just kind of gives him
like,
a look.
almost disdainful. It's like, all right, man.
Yeah.
But, to Grandy's credit, the ref says go, and Grandy shoots immediately. And that was, like, that's uncommon. Usually guys, like, there's a little bit of feeling out process, but I got props to Grandy to, like, try to go through the guy that wins trials a lot in Paul Ardilla. And then they kind of restart, and like Ardilla goes, cool, take me down again, and keeps giving me his leg.
Yeah. And
then Grandy eventually goes, all right, and kind of takes it down. Paul Ardilla goes, cool, I'm on the ground now. It's a takedown. It's not a pull.
Basically what they do is, like, you barely touch their leg, and they're like, oh, and they do, like, almost like it's soccer, like when you just like the fall where you're like, oh god, I just
but it counts as a takedown. And it is a very, I'm curious if that rule in ADCC is going to change. I kind of like right now where it's like people are kind of gaming it where I think we saw it in one of the women's matches too. There was like a really like very light like tap with a leg, and then someone someone kind of fell down. It's like, oh, that counts as a takedown. Now we're on the mat. And the other person kind of like nodded their head like, good play. Same thing happened here with Ardilla, where Ardilla obviously wanted to work from the bottom, wanted to work from the guard, and so he gives his leg to Grandy. And you can get penalized for this, but it is funny because if someone's giving their leg, you're kind of both obligated to take the leg, weirdly enough, like for activity.
You can kind of smack the leg away. Or you can smack it away.
You
but
can.
The problem is if you smack it and they sit down, then they got...
Right, and you took them down with a smack. So it's a weird little... It's something that we talked about a couple weeks ago coming into the meta.
I think one person should give the leg, and then the other person should give the leg. And they should do like...
double donkey guard?
Almost like hacky sack. Like...
And then one person...
Just jump with your legs at each other.
This is why no one takes this seriously as a sport.
Because
again,
you said
Miranda, we're going to see it at West Coast Trial. It's going to happen. You're going to have the leg game.
Yeah, it goes from this until like...
donkey guard.
Into like craziness. And then, you get somebody butchering another person and we're all just watching it like, it's just a normal day. Just Tuesday.
So Ardilla works from the guard. Again, I think tactically it's in the rule set. It's what you do. We've talked about it for years. Like, I'm never going to blame the athlete for using the rule set. Like, that is your job, is to like take the pieces in the rule that work best for your game and implement them. ADCC is like, yeah, man, he take you down in the no points time. There's no points. Feel free to work from the guard for the remainder of the match. In a finals match, doesn't count as a pull. Eventually Paul gets under Alex. Gets a really nice heel hook, gets a really nice bite on it, and then finishes an outside heel hook. There's not a whole lot else to it. Ardilla is a good leg blocker. Wanted the guard for a reason in this match. Didn't really want to stand with Grandy for a reason. It makes sense, and gets a sub in the finals.
Yeah. And
takes his, again, I can't believe he's won. I think this beats DeBlas and Wagner now. I think both those guys had three trials wins.
Dude has it all going on.
But it's crazy. I think now he is the winningest trials person. Previously, I think DeBlas and Wagner both had 3 first place trials. My wife and I looked this up on driving home. We were like, how many has Wagner won? And I think the last time he did it was 2017.
And when we get into the ladies' matches and we talk about his daughter, we have to talk about the cup.
Yes, the chicken cup.
The chicken cup.
Okay, don't forget. Yeah, that's under 99 kilos.
Yep.
Ardilla takes another one, and everyone kind of goes, "Yep, if Paulo does in your division, he tends to do very, very well."
And good on him.
Do we have anything else on this?
Not really. It was a smaller division.
Yeah, it was kind of Ardilla's show.
Yeah. And Paul Ardilla was like, I'm doing all this shit.
I'm gonna win again.
I'm gonna win.
On the plus 99 kilogram division, we had the 3 favorites come in, and we had Amir Alam actually on the other kind of quadrant of that bracket, looking really good. I watched, I think, all of his matches, day 1 into day 2.
Okay.
And I was really impressed. He go plotted a guy.
Yeah.
Like, I think in his match to get into the quarters or something.
His quarterfinal is Gogo Plata.
Oh, no, that was the quarterfinal match then. Yeah. And it was just, again, Amir's a big dude. He has formulas, I forgot, tattooed on his neck. The neck tattoos are like physics formulas.
Okay.
Like long, I forget what it's a.
Were you the one that told me that some guy had the Constitution of the United States tattooed on his arm?
I didn't tell you that, but that is not a super uncommon fighter tattoo.
Yeah.
I forget who has it.
Yeah, somebody else in this, they were telling me they saw a guy who had the entire Constitution written on his arm.
That's neat.
That's how big dude's forearms were, that he could put the whole Constitution on it.
Quarterfinals, the guys we expected. Damon Ramos defeats Sam Paulo via rear naked choke, or Palumbo via rear naked choke. Palumbo? Palumbo. John Hansen defeats Vincent Pezio via points 9-0. Amir Alam defeats Brendan Reed via Gogo Plata. Big Dan Manasuri defeats Cody Gamble via outside heel hook. Big Dan getting taps, not surprising for most people.
Yeah.
Semifinals, we had Big Dan defeating Amir Alam via Katagatame, just head and arm choke.
Yeah.
I was Matt's side for this. Amir, I was impressed with Amir's defense here. Like, Big Dan has to, it takes a minute for Big Dan to finally be able to get the arm. He had just, I think, 3 separate times where Amir is able to, clear his hand. And most big guys don't have the flexibility in their arms to be able to do that. So, Amir is a guy that we don't see a whole lot. We talked about him mostly seeing him in Quintet.
Yeah, he's come back. He's kind of come out of nowhere.
But it's cool to see, just how good he is. And it's I want to see more of him because he has a super neat game for a big guy, and he's super flexible. He versus John Hansen in a third-place match.
Yeah.
He can re-guard from you inside control on him. He can do the jailbreak, but he can do it without needing to grab his own leg. He just has the flexibility to put his foot on his opposite hip.
John Hansen has some flexibility too because
he does. But I don't remember the last time I've seen a heavyweight Amir Alam in that match, that third place match with Hansen, regards I think once without using his hands to put his cross-side foot in his own other pocket of his hip. It was the most flexible big guy thing I have ever seen in jiu-jitsu. It was wild. Semifinals, we have Damon Ramos defeating John Hansen via inside heel hook. Does a really good job getting under Hansen, kind of on Hansen, looking for a single leg transition to X. Damon Ramos does that sit. We saw him do in Fight to Win a couple of months ago. Ramos does a really good job of sitting into your hip. Yeah. And then also when he sits to going for the knee bar, the back step knee bar, he does a really good job of hopping your leg closer and getting his far side knee that he's stepping back with underneath of your leg.
And controlling your hip. Yeah. So even if you could try to move your leg, you got all that body weight on your hip and you just can't go anywhere.
And then he forces the hand fight, and Ramos is really good at Hansen. You see him reach up and try to grab the hands, and he does a good hand fight, but Ramos eventually can strip Hansen's grips off, comes back and gets the heel hook, and just really impressive because, again, we trained with Hansen. I'm a huge fan of John Hansen, so to see him, Damon Ramos be able to beat Hansen, that's a rematch too. Yeah, is really, really impressive. Finals, we had Big Dan versus Damon Ramos, and Big Dan gets some other tap.
Yes, he does.
Big guy jiu-jitsu. Again, we're seeing a lot of the guys from New Wave. We're seeing a lot of the guys in the men's, actually across all divisions, starting to use this more. It is most effective in the larger divisions because you got more body, you have more weight to drop into it, but folks are getting much better at this. I saw a couple of these across a bunch of divisions this whole weekend. It was not an uncommon submission to see people have to tap to. Yeah. And to see it in the finals is crazy. Big Dan finally wasn't successful in European trials, but comes over to really an even more stacked trials here in the U.S. trials and gets the victory, finishes the finals by submission. Super impressive.
I was going to look for Mario because I remember us having this conversation.
Yeah.
What's Mario's last name?
I think Gonzalez, but I could be incorrect.
I think you are correct.
Those were the 4 top seeds in the division.
He lost.
Damon, John, and Big Dan.
He lost by ref's decision first round to Reed.
Oh,
to Brandon Reed.
Woohoo, then Amir Alam beat.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So
he got taken out early.
We had the third place match as well. I'm going to talk about that because, again, huge fan of John Hansen, and we went out to Nebraska. I'm in the process of editing that footage finally for John Hansen's World Championship camp that Zach and I went out to Nebraska for.
Yeah, and I had a whole conversation with John Hansen because right before the open, he was sitting outside by the doors, and I flopped down beside him. I was like, "Hey," and he's like, "Hey." He's like, "Everybody's mad around here. No one wants to joke around." And I'm like, "I'll joke around, but I'm about to go soon, And we just chit chatted about jiu-jitsu and shit. Yeah, and jobs and
he's got a really
just
cool
random
mind for the
shit.
game. He in his match with Mir Alam, so a tactics thing that his camp's been doing for a couple of years now. When Zach and I went out to Nebraska to train with John before, like a couple of weeks before the World Championships, it was something they were doing then. His whole camp counts because John is a guy that super smart and super thoughtful about the rules of ADCC, and he'll come up with ways to like be successful within the rules. So, okay,
kind of like how TLI, you learn the system and you learn how to kind of take advantage of the system.
And how do I score? What's the criteria for scoring? Does this score me? Does not? I've had some great conversations backstage with John over the years about these specific little tactics. But one of the things his camp does is the 3-second rule. So in ADCC, you don't have to go back through the guard to score knee on belly or to score back mount.
But we also have to explain knee on belly because knee on belly on this is a lot different.
Oh, okay. So for ADCC, knee on the stomach, knee on belly points, you get 2 points every time you bring the knee up to the center of the stomach.
Yeah.
And then hold it for 3 seconds with more than 75% of the back of the opponent flat. Yeah. And then bring it down. But it can be either knee. It can be your front knee or your back knee.
Yeah.
And it can be any direction.
And you don't have to, like in
IBJJF,
you have to kind of be chest up and you have to take your one leg that's not on the knee and you need to kind of flare it out. And
you have to stand on it. You have to fully stand up.
You basically have to like present yourself. You know, like, and
you have to be essentially flying knee forward into them in like a drive.
Yeah.
But for ADCC,
they just care that your knee is on their midsection.
Yep.
And they don't give a shit what you're doing with the rest of your body.
John Hansen will tend to play super low base where the other knee is flat on the mat.
He's playing side control, but he just slides his knee up and counts, and then his, like you said,
his camp all goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he'll wait about 4.5 seconds. He'll drop the knee off, and then they'll go 1, 2. Because in ADCC, you have to hold it for 3 seconds. And then if you take it off and you go to a non-scoring position for 3 seconds, and then you bring it back up for 3 seconds, you score again.
Yeah.
John Hansen scores 13 points like this.
Yeah.
This is the highest scoring match of the tournament that I saw. I think John Hansen has a 9-0 match.
He had to have done something else because
I think he passes.
Yeah.
He passes Amir's guard to get to.
It's an odd number.
Yeah.
We have
he passes to get to the side control, and then he scores like 4 or 3 or 4.
5.
Is it 5? Yeah, 5 separate times.
There'd be 10 points left.
Knee on belly. I'm not good at math, Miranda, as you can see.
It's 5.
But it was crazy. I think that is something that I think we will see more and more camps do. And John's talking about, I'm not sure why more camps don't do it.
Yeah, he said he likes to do it because that way he has all his points ranked or cranked up. So then if he goes after something or something happens towards the end of a match, that then you have that window.
You only can sub him. That's your only kind of response because he has so many points on you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way to do it. We saw Gordon do it in the World Championships versus Galvao. Like, put the hook in, take the hook out, put the hook in, take the hook out. Like, there's no reason to not be racking up points if you're in a good position and able to do it. It is interesting that we don't see more guys doing it. But I love listening to his camp count that because I think it is you kind of forget as the athlete how quick 3 seconds is. And sometimes it's super long, sometimes it's super short, and so your camp externally counting that for you.
Well, that and it makes your ref pay attention. It makes your judge listen because they're like, the judge is like, okay, they're and they just go by the count because everybody else is counting. So.
Or that makes the judge go, okay, they're counting slow.
Yeah.
That's actually, or okay, they're counting fast.
Yeah.
But it makes, and that's why if you're an athlete, sit for an extra second after your camp has finished counting, then you absolutely will get it because even the judge goes, okay, they counted to 3. He's still up there. It's 4.5 seconds. I mean, it's not, once you get to 3, it's usually 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Even on a relatively quick count. So if you're holding for 4.5, you're going to score up and down. It's great. One other thing I hope we see, we saw in a bunch of the finals matches. I love we're starting to see chants in ADCC finally. Yeah. One of the chants is when the referees and the judges at the 4-minute mark in the finals go yell, they yell points because they want the coaches to know it. They want the athletes to know it. They want everyone to know that there's now points. One of the matches, somebody in the crowd or some of the crowd kind of also started yelling points. Yeah. And then a couple matches by later in the finals, the entire crowd, every time there was points yelled.
And the ref would like...
One of the refs, I think Miguel. It might have been Miguel. It might not have been Miguel.
I think it was Miguel.
I think we have 2 Miguel refs, which is what throws me off. We points and somebody went points and then the ref went like, come on, yell points. And the whole crowd was like, oh, sweet, this is our option. Yeah. But I love that the referees are real people in ADCC, where it's like they'll talk to the athletes, like they'll give the athletes feedback, but they'll also go like, hey man, we're here to put on a show. Give it a little, like, you guys want to do it? Crowd enjoy it, and it gave the crowd like every match after that.
But then you started having, you also started having the random person just scream points for no reason.
Yeah. But I did love it when the crowd all everyone got into it at the end and would yell points and got excited about it.
The meme I found earlier today, which is all the little
from Finding Nemo. It's all the
seagulls
on the wires going mine, but it's all points.
Yeah, because
and
that's
ADCC at 4 minutes, and it's points.
Because that's basically what happened.
But it's great. But again, I like that.
Yeah.
ADCC is figuring out or like the community is figuring out ways to have chance and make things exciting.
We tried to get the wave started a few times.
You need Andrew Tack. You need Andrew Tack for that.
We got no wave.
He's the one that did it at Worlds. Was Andrew Tack?
It was Wagner this time.
Oh,
Wagner was like the far corner, like where they were coming in. He was the far corner, and Wagner was trying to start it to put it around, but it would never. It only made it like a couple people, and then
that's
no
funny.
one would do it.
Yeah, Andrew Tack, I think at the Worlds did it for like 5 minutes before it worked, and eventually we got it around the arena at the World Championships 2022. But I like the more people started calling 1, 2, 3, and then the point chant. We were seeing chants come out, and it makes it feel like a real sport, and I'm excited about it. So that was +99. Big Dan moves on, punches his ticket. Second time in a row, he won the second European trials last year.
Yes.
He just went to European trials, got beat by Henki Julissa, and then now comes to this trials and wins this trial. So kind of a reverse of last time.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see Big Dan out here now going to represent the U.S. in the trials, in the World Championships as opposed to Romania last time. So that's kind of cool. Moving on to the women's under 55 kilogram division, we had a finals match. We had Alex Enrique defeating Jasmine Rocha.
Hosha.
What did I say?
You said Rocha. It's Hosha. But
is it really?
Yeah. They are Brazilian.
Oh, it is Hosha, isn't it?
It is Hosha.
That makes sense.
So the cup thing. So if you know,
so you talk about the cup thing.
The cup thing was. I found it entertaining, but at some point, I think on day one, I realized that Wagner wanted like a little bit. So day one was super loud because they're playing music at the same time that you're competing, which I think is awesome. Truthfully,
yeah, it makes it feel like a sterile.
I didn't even have to put my headphones on. Like I was just dancing or whatever, like was playing on the radio, and it was pretty good music. Me and your wife were commenting that we had whoever the DJ was good DJ.
ADCC always has good DJs,
but
I appreciate it.
But I think it was also our age. I think if we were a little bit younger, we wouldn't have appreciated it.
But it's guys with sets around our age a little bit, where it's like it's music that we kind of grew up with and liked.
So,
it's like 90s hip hop or early 2000s,
late 90s, early 2000s
hip hop.
Yeah, hip hop. But so anyway, so I noticed that one time I looked over and so he needed to be a little bit louder. So he took a chicken cup, which I guess they were. I don't know.
So he gave me the full context here.
Yeah.
Guy for what's his name?
Guy Ferrari.
Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives guy has a chicken restaurant. Actually, we ate there pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And it has it's a little to-go cup, and it has a chicken on it.
Yeah.
And Wagner like busted out the bottom of it and was using it as a little megaphone. And
he used it all weekend.
Used that, but then the day two he had a different cup.
Yeah.
That I don't think had a logo on it, but the day one was the chicken cup all day.
Yeah.
And you heard him he put it in front of his mouth, and I'm not sure how much it helped, but
it was. I had a picture.
You saw Wagner.
I have a picture of him with the chicken cup because I thought it was hilarious. It's a good idea. I would have never thought of that idea, but anyway.
Wagner's an innovator for a reason, so he was with the finals. Also, for the finals between Alex Enriquez and Jasmine Hosha, I thought it was really interesting that Wagner would give instructions to Jasmine in both English and Portuguese.
Oh,
he
really?
would swap between the two, and I noticed specifically if he was looking to influence the judging or talk about like potentially Alex Enriquez's pressure or she's not moving forward, he would give those constructions and commands in English, and if he was talking about more technical information about like where Jasmine was grabbing the head or what she was doing, he would do it in Portuguese. I thought it was a very, very interesting kind of strategy, and we talked about this entire tournament, good camps and good gamesmanship and good game planning. Wagner does a really, really good job himself, obviously, with all his accolades, and also when coaching his children, Jasmine and Achilles,
Yeah.
throughout their tournaments. Like, it was great to hear Wagner in his fighter's corner, in his daughter's corner, like advocating, she's not moving there, like just trying his best to influence the judging. And you saw at times, it working, and the judges would have to consider something Wagner had yelled and go, "Is that okay? That is a little slow. Yep, we need him to move." And like it's really good corner coaching, and I think more people take a page out of how Wagner coaches to kind of move their athlete. Unfortunately for Jasmine, Alex Enriquez is a good wrestler and has a great top game.
This was the one where Alex barely touched Jasmine's leg, and Jasmine did the soccer fallout.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then kind of smiled and went, and then both of them kind of went, yep, that counts. And then the referee kind of went, yeah, it was enough. It was enough of a touch of the leg. But I think that actually really impressed me from Jasmine, because I think a lot of other athletes that weren't as tuned in those moments would have just gone and like, for pride, held their balance there.
Yeah.
But Jasmine knew, it's like, no, I'm going to go down as soon as I have the opportunity, and stayed in her game. It was surprising, but I was so impressed that she did that. I was like, wow, that's really, really well thought out, like sticking to your game plan. Of any opportunity you have, go down. Now you're playing guard. Now you're where you want to work from. And Alex is now forced to play into the top position. Like, credit to her.
Yeah. So Alex wins the division. In semifinals, Alex actually goes against her partner, Faye Cherrier.
Which I don't know if that's ever happened in
I don't think so.
A division. I mean, it might happen in the men's division, but I'm not aware of it.
Not that we are aware of.
But it's crazy to go against your partner in a semifinals.
Yeah,
like, not only...
Meaning domestic, like actual
domestic partner.
Significant other.
Yeah. I don't believe that they're married, but I don't know.
I'm not quite sure. But the two of them went against each other in semifinals, which I was like... Damn, that's got to be.
I talked to Rachel, my wife, about this.
What did you say?
Well, I was like, she goes, you better come, you better fucking go if we ever have to go. And I went, that's crazy.
I think, in all honesty, if you go against your significant other, like, you're definitely gonna go like as hard as you possibly. Like, think about it.
Yeah.
When you like,
it makes sense. We've seen teammate brother. Like, we've seen Cade and Ty, like, not the same thing at all.
No.
But just very, like, we've seen very close relationships have matches. It's just a very interesting, like, semifinals match to be required to do that.
Yeah.
I was amazed. Again, unfortunately for the women's divisions, they don't get an entrance into the World Championship here. We've seen Alex Enriquez be extremely successful at trials before. I think she took silver at East Coast.
Yes.
And then Jasmine took silver at West Coast.
Yeah.
So this was 2 silver medalists going at it in the finals, which I love to see, like, consistency and top-level women, like, continuing to rise and be at that level. I was just amazingly impressed at kind of how consistent of a game Enriquez plays. Like, she was thoughtful. She never let Jasmine, kind of much like the Elijah Dorsey and Nicky Ryan match, whereas she was doing enough activity on top to never get the penalties against her, but never really let Rosha open up and get going. Alex has some great passing, some great low pressure passing to really prevent Jasmine from being able to open up the guard. This decision took them
a while,
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Something like.
But I'm sure
this is a very close
Wagner
match.
was probably advocating for his daughter during the whole thing too.
Yeah.
So it was probably partly you're
listen to Wagner.
You're dealing with Wagner trying to scream at you.
Which is you gotta respect it though.
Yeah.
Like, he's advocating for his fighter. I think Alex Enriquez does win this. Like, she I think it's I wouldn't say it's clear, but I think there's a strong argument that she wins this.
And I think with this rule set, it definitely benefits the top player who is trying to pass, trying to attack.
But for Jasmine's credit, Jasmine was looking for submission offense as well. And so it's like, I think there's a moment where Alex almost gets Jasmine's back, maybe, is what it was. But there's a moment where Rosha almost got Alex's arm.
Yeah.
And so they had a great, it was definitely a more slow-paced match, but it was very tactical for both fighter. And I'm happy that it wasn't an instantaneous decision. I'm happy that there was like 2 minutes of actual judges' discussion for who they were going to give it to. And that's one of the perks of the ADCC rule set that I really like, is that they're not going to give, like, we got to make a decision. Like, nope, you had all 4 judges and the referee having a discussion on the table about what they thought, what they saw. Because I was 6 inches from the table. Like, you can hear that discussion taking place. And, like, I just love that they give it that much consideration. They're not going to go out. I think they talk about it and they make an argument for their point of why they think it should go to who. And it makes for good decisions like this. And I just love that they gave it the time. So that's the division. Let's see.
We go to 65.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other matches in this division I want to talk about.
No, I think we go on.
Let's move on to the 65 kilo or under 65 kilo division.
Yeah.
This was really, the question was Helena Cravar going to make it to the finals, and was she going to be able to win? She's now at,
it's going to be who could beat her.
Yeah.
That's really what.
Because I think she was one of the top people in the division. One of the top people. And you also had Trinity Pun in here. You also had Mo Black in here. Sofia Delgado in here. You had very good competition. But I think a lot of people right now, especially with Cravar being, I think the woman that New Wave is really looking to push into the spotlight for their female champion. She also has a really unique look. Like Cravar comes out every time with full length rash guard on top, full length rash guard on the bottom, in the same style, and she is. It's some of the best branding I think any athlete can do. You can always find Helena Cravar on the mat because she is a very tall woman with a uniform single like style rash guard, and though she'll change it throughout the day. Yeah. But it's great branding, and that's I think that alone. And we've seen her on UFC Fight Pass. Yeah, she has a very recognizable look, and I think that helps her out significantly kind of in the eye, and why, partially because she's good, but partially because she has a great branding behind her, why so many people were like, okay, she's going to be the one to take the division. But then you got Mo Black. Yeah. Mo Black took the U.S. Open at the World Championships in the Absolute division. Yep. And Mo Black's not, this is not plus 65 kilos. Mo Black is not, a huge, overwhelming grappler. I think she was even undersized here versus Helena Cravar.
Cravar had to have cut to make, because 65 is 143, and I'm thinking Cravar is a little bit bigger than 143, but I could be wrong with that.
I think you're correct. I think she's taller than me. I mean, she's like,
I think so too, because I think she
150.
I think she walked past me at one point, and I was like right at the line. Yeah. So I know she had been cutting because I was cutting to make it. So
yeah, and she's substantially taller than you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So this was another neat match because Cravar does the same thing we see Ardillo do. Yeah. Put the leg out, look for the takedown, and Mo Black kind of goes, I don't want to take you down. I don't want to do it with your guard. Yeah. I want to tactic. I want to force you to have to wrestle with me, and not just going to give you the easy takedown. And then you saw Mo Black kind of mucking with it, and it was an interesting dynamic because Mo didn't really want to take Cravar down. Cravar really wasn't willing to wrestle that much with Mo.
But Cravar sat.
And then Cravar, they call for activity. Yeah. And Cravar kind of waits a couple seconds and sits. Yeah. And I'm really curious because I was next to John Danaher, who was coaching her. Yeah. I didn't hear John. He could have said something.
He doesn't say things.
He doesn't say much.
He doesn't say
during
much
the matches. Occasionally, he will say things, but he's pretty quiet. Pretty quiet of a coach. And again, it's a coaching style that works for his athletes very well, obviously. But it was interesting that Cravar sort of the ref kind of pushed her to have action, and she was like, I've been submitting people all day. I'm kind of curious what the thought process is for the pull there.
I'm sure
because she takes the negative.
I'm sure she thought that it's not 2 points against me. You know what I mean? I sit, it's a negative against me. It's just 1 point in theory, and I'm going to sub her anyway, so why does it matter? Yeah,
it's interesting because, again, that's eventually Mo Black's actually able to pass or take her down later.
Yeah, but Mo Black goes after one of Helena's legs. And in order to get out of the leg attack, she stands up. And when she stands up, it becomes,
After 3 seconds, you're standing, and then Mo's able to take her down.
And then the two of them kind of wrestle back and forth. Mo gets a single. Helena's unable to kind of do anything. She falls. And I want to say they stand up another time, too. Because they stand up.
She stands up, but it's less than 3 seconds.
Yeah. Because at the end, Helena has Mo Black's leg, and she's on a treetop.
But I think that was in the last 5 or 10 seconds. I think
she's
very near the end of the match.
Yeah, at the very end, Helena gets up because I think at that point she knows she's 2 under. Yeah, so she knows she has
3 technically because she has the negative at the beginning for the pull.
So she knows she has to do something. So she stands up and she starts going after Mo, and Mo's bouncing on one leg. In finals.
One thing I wish the BJJ Heroes would do is I would wish they would include the negative negative points, because right now I'm looking at the BJ Heroes, which I love how they organize all of their results. They're one of the things we use most for results because it's just very easy to read and it tends to avoid errors that we've had in the past. But they don't list the negatives in the result. So it's listed as Mo Black defeating Helena Cravar 2 points to 0, when really it was Mo Black 2 to -1, because that -1 is included in the score at the end.
Yeah.
So, and you can go negative in ADCC for points. So it's like it is scored as -1. So it's just one thing I wish that BJ Heroes would add, or at least kind of include it as in a note there when they're writing these up, because they have they have the results I like to use most of the time. So I would like to see that. But again, interesting tactics. I know that we're going to see Helena back. I know we're going to see Mo Black back, because both of them have to do trials again. I'm very curious because they have history. They were in the Open. They've been at each other before. I think Helena has beat Mo before.
She has.
She
beat her at the Open.
At the weight class. Yeah, weight class. I want to see it again. This was a neat kind of stylistic tactical match. I'm curious how Mo will approach the next one. She approached this one,
Oh no, she didn't beat her at the weight class. They didn't go against each other at the Open. I'm wrong. She went against her at Fight to Win.
That's what it was. Okay.
And Helena won over her at Fight to Win.
Yeah,
that was
because Mo did an interview and he talked about it, and I was thinking, I thought it wasn't the Open, but
it was Fight to Win.
Right,
but
Fight to Win.
Mo did win the Open. Mm-hmm. And Cravar was in that, but I think Cravar, when she did the Open, she was a juvenile, so I think she was in the juvenile divisions.
I believe so, because I judged a couple of her matches.
I think she was in the teen or the juvenile divisions, and Mo was an adult, so she was in the adult division.
Maybe I don't remember.
No, I'm almost
no. Cravar, I think Cravar was in the adult weight class.
She was,
because I remember a match specifically where somebody was like into her chest super heavy down, and then obviously not trying to pass, and Helena opened her legs and started whirlwinding the legs to go, look, she's not trying to pass her move at all, and the other woman got a negative.
Okay.
It was great. I remember that from the Open, and that was against an adult competitor when Helena was like 16, I think.
Oh, okay. So she was. So she just didn't do absolute.
Mm-hmm.
And Mo did absolute. That's how Mo won. Okay.
Yeah. So in the quarterfinals, Helena Cravar takes out April Parks via rear naked choke. Helena Cravar in the semifinals takes out Aslan O'Connell via straight ankle lock. Mo Black takes out Lorena Barrels via point 6-0 in the quarterfinals. And then Sofia Delgado, and they don't have a way of victory there in the semifinals for Mo Black, but they both had great runs, and it doesn't surprise me.
What are you talking about? Right there. Morgan Black
defeats Sofia Delgado via.
Oh.
It doesn't have a method of victory listed.
Oh. Let's see if I wrote it. I do not.
Via. So Mo Black moves on. Third place, we have Sofia Delgado defeating Aslan O'Connell via points 4-0. I loved this time for ADCC how they ran it. We haven't really talked about a lot of the third place matches. I love that they ran the third place and then they ran the finals. I think they've done it in reverse before. Maybe.
Yeah, I think they did reverse before because
East Coast Trials.
Yeah, because it was kind of
It was odd.
It was odd.
This was great. I whatever format for how they ran this, we talked about it a little bit on the day one show. I loved it. I think this was exactly how I would love to see the rest of the things run.
Mo Black subbed her after 6 minutes and 48 seconds.
Okay, in the semifinals.
I'm not really sure what it was.
So moving on to the plus 65 kilogram division. Amanda Levy defeats Bridget McLeese via rear naked choke. Did an interview with Amanda Levy. Amanda Levy is now the 2-time trials champion. She won the West Coast Trials the same year Nicky Rod did in 2019. Yeah. And then she wins this one again. Both trials, and it's funny, you can hear in the interview. So that interview is actually very funny when I did it with Amanda, because we're talking, and then we kind of just lead into the interview, and I'm like, well, can I just start? And she's like, yeah, and I've already been recording a little bit, and she's like, yeah, just all good. So that interview will cut in about halfway into the interview, because we're talking about MMA and jiu-jitsu and her transition back into jiu-jitsu from MMA. Amanda just sort of decided, and I was like, I guess I'll jump into trials again. Which is exactly
she did that last time.
Which is exactly the way she won West Coast Trials in 2019. I think it's so funny that she
was just going out there with some training partners.
But there's no pressure.
Yeah.
She was going out there with Nicky Rod and Jay Rodriguez. Yeah. And Nicky Rod and Big J Reglabudo, who was coaching Nicky Rod at the time. And Big J was like, hey, Nicky Rod and I are going out. Do you want to go too? And she was like, I guess I'll go. And she wins it and punches the ticket to the World Championship. This was a really similar one. I'm just like, I guess I'm going to go. And I think it's funny that, and we talk about in the interview a little bit, that is sort of the approach that works so well for her. Of just like, I've put a ton of work and I'm in good shape. I might as well go do trials, and then wins it. Again, quick finals too.
Yeah.
Like she gets Bridget's back and then bailies her out all the way and gets rid of. I was facing the feet in this one, so I couldn't really see the choking position. I think you were on the same side I was as well.
Yeah.
I think the camera even for the broadcast looks at the feet as well.
Yeah.
I can't really see the finish that well. I assume it's just a standard.
But it's belly down. I mean, belly down, you just got to grab their head.
That's what it kind of looks like Amanda Levy does. Amanda Levy has great finishes. Again, quarterfinals, Amanda Levy defeats Marissa Passanelli via rear naked choke. Semifinals, Amanda Levy defeats Brittany Elkin via rear naked choke. Finals, she defeats Bridget McLeese via rear naked choke.
Yep.
I see a trend here.
Yeah.
It was previously flying arm bars, which I asked her in the interview. I was like, we see more of those? And she goes, it's still my game, but, people kind of know what's coming.
Yeah.
And I went, that's reasonable. I don't know, and Amanda actually doesn't know, if she's going to do West Coast trials. And I think it's so funny. Like, you got a free entry to it. You got a free fright and ticket. But, again, she seems to like the no-pressure approach to kind of coming into these. And I'm curious, now that she's punched her ticket to West Coast trials for the women, if she's going to do it. I think we will not know till the week of.
Yeah.
Neither would surprise me, because I talked to her boyfriend a little bit, and she's like, she's kind of doing it for fun.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy that she's that good to be able to walk into this tournament and go like, I'm in good shape. I'm ready to go. I got forcibly retired from MMA due to some brain stuff. So I guess I'm back to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's just crazy run. What else do you want to talk about in the plus 99 kilogram division? This is a fun division.
It was. And it was a new division.
Yeah.
Because they moved the ladies' divisions around a little bit.
They moved them up 5 kilos.
Yeah. So I don't know.
A lot of these women had buys in the first day, I think, right?
Yeah. So
I think Amanda had a bye the first day.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. So she came into day 2 and immediately went to work. Marissa Pacelli she had 2 matches the day before, I want to say. No, she might have had only 1 match the day
I think the
before.
women had one, the plus 65 women had one match day prior.
Before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Marissa's really good at arm bars. So.
That's okay. I recognize the name.
She's the arm bar. Her Instagram name's something about an arm bar. I don't know. She's an arm bar chick.
Mm-hmm. She had a really nice arm bar in an earlier match.
Yeah, she does.
That's really what she is known for, and so for Amanda to move through her.
Well, and they've probably also trained together because they're both Jersey.
Yeah. Also,
so
another training together is Amanda Levy and Brittany Elkin.
Yeah.
I think they've trained together before as well.
Yeah, because Brittany Elkin is Philly.
Yep.
And then Bridget's actually New York.
Bridget McLeese took on
either New
Jason
York
Foster in the semifinals.
Yeah, she's either New York or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this is a very East Coast, very East Coast finals for the women.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of cool to see on our end. It's a bunch of women that were pretty local to us, north by a couple hours at most.
We aren't as familiar with Jason Foster. I was trying to figure out where they were from.
they look good this entire tournament. I was really impressed with the wrestling.
It was I believe they were a Texas wrestler. I could be wrong with this information.
Yeah, I think so.
It was a little hard to figure out. Plus, it's a name it's a very common name. And it's not, they haven't been around long enough to have the notoriety to, I believe they did some opens prior, but like I said, we tried. We tried looking.
I'm not sure.
Couldn't figure.
Jason had a really good match with Brittany in the 3rd place match. I think it's a takedown and a pass.
Yeah.
For 5-0.
Yeah, and Brittany's imposing. And she was larger than they were. But Jason just got under her and it was a clear takedown and a pass.
Yeah, it was good. I was impressed with the pressure that Jason was able to put down, be able to keep Brittany in those spots. Again,
and if you've ever rolled with Brittany, which I have,
Brittany's what, 6'2"?
She's a lot. She's a lot. She's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
And she's very, very good.
It's funny. The first time I met Brittany was one of the early Fight to Wins. I think it might have been the Baltimore Fight to Win. I didn't meet her at the first one we did, but the second, I think Fight to Win 72.
Yeah.
And I interviewed her back then. That's before she took on Clarissa Shields or before she fought Kayla Harrison. And I think she's definitely still a brown belt at the time. And I remember I'm having to look up to interview her because she's so much taller than me. But yeah, really impressive. I think we will see all these folks back at West Coast trials. Yes. Pending Amanda Levy. That's the big X factor is how much is the division going to open back up if Levy decides to not enter?
Yeah.
Or are we going to see Levy again going to the West Coast? Or again, potentially even getting an invite if she's won 2 trials now. You can make a pretty strong argument that maybe she is deserving of an invite outright, regardless of doing the second trials, which is the qualifying trials for the women. So, again, Amanda Levin makes a strong argument. Would not be surprised to see her at the World Championships regardless, but that was the event. That was the weekend. It was awesome. It was the best time I've ever had in Atlantic City.
It was the best venue they've done this at.
Yes.
Now, I've only been to 2, but this venue was so
better
much
than the
nicer.
Showboat. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the Showboat.
Yeah, the walk, it was kind of like we were staying on one side of the hotel and the other side of the hotel.
Well, the hotel was the other side. And the convention area was like the whole connected area.
That was the convention center.
I think so.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it was still connected and it was great.
Yeah,
there was adequate food, adequate parking.
They had some little girl dance competition going on downstairs.
That was so funny. So ADCC was the upstairs ballrooms.
It was like the second floor.
And then you had to walk through it was some sort of
dance initiative.
It was some adolescent dance event.
Yeah.
And it was very funny to see a bunch of the cauliflower ear convention walking through the child dance pageant.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a pageant. It was a dance competition.
It was like a dance competition.
Oh no, sorry. It was like a dance workshop almost is what it seemed like.
I don't know what it was, but it was
they were having a great
time.
Like
the dance initiative, blah blah blah, and all the moms and the little girls and all the little leotards running around. And then you see dude with huge
cauliflower ear, hella tattoos, and like short ADCC shorts, like beat up face and like sweaty. It was just such a I love jiu-jitsu competitions because we're not big enough yet to book out whole event centers.
Well, and
there's always something else going on that has to see us.
Because West Coast Trials, that was a pageant. That was a kids pageant. West Coast Trials. It was the kids pageant.
Yes, it was the kids pageant.
And so it was really bizarre because they had no idea what the fuck was going on.
They're like, what is ADCC?
I got asked a few times, like, what is going on
what
over
is
there?
this? Yeah. What are you people here for?
Because they're like they're in this huge line. And one of them, what was the one? There was one where there was like some kind of like sci-fi convention and a bunch of like women were in line to see some like 1970s like showboat star.
Was that the Worlds? Was that Worlds?
It might have been because there was this line of ladies and they all had like books and stuff for this guy to sign and they were in the line.
Yeah, and Thomas and Mac was its own thing.
And we were.
Yeah, what was
you
that?
remember that?
I do remember
and
this
I remember
now. I can't
being like,
figure out what it is.
"Excuse me, ma'am, what are you in line for?" And she was like, "Oh, such and so is here." And he was like some like sci-fi writer or like movie star from the 1970s. It was wild. So you never really know what's going on around the trials event.
The event was great. Like the showboat wasn't I wasn't a huge fan of the venue. They didn't seem like they had the capacity to deal with 1,500 people. The food was hard. Yeah. What was it? Harrah's?
One of my friends kept on calling it Harrah's.
Am I your friend, Miranda? Because my wife had to correct me over and over the weekend. Yeah. Eventually by Sunday, she kept like waving me. You'll figure it out.
My only gripe about Harrah's was they had a really cool pool, but you had to pay to get into.
Yeah, it's not included in your room. That was super frustrating.
What the hell? What am I paying resort fees if I can't go in the pool?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was good. It was laid out well. There was adequate food, adequate parking. Like that's one thing that is always super hard for jiu-jitsu events, especially because there's so many people at these events, and you're there, especially if you're a guy like me doing media. You're there all day for like 12 or 15 hours.
Somehow PBJJF found my car and put a
I got one too.
Flyer on it.
I got one too.
I was like, these people are going deep if they're going.
We're in Jersey. Yeah, but again, I liked that. I'm happy that the venue was the best venue I've seen so far for one of the events.
Yeah.
Because there was an hour break between the finals and the semifinals finishing, and we were able, Miranda, my wife, and me were able to go like walk down the aisle and get food.
Yeah.
And it was like we got food, and then we walked back to the arena, and we didn't have to leave the arena or bring all our own food. It was set up nice. There was enough rooms for people. Yeah. There was a great booking code, so I saved I think $300 off what I was initially going to pay.
You got a freaking nice room.
The podcast, when we did the podcast that I overexposed the video last episode.
Whatever. It was a nice room.
It was a great room, and it was like overall a great experience. I cannot wait to go back to Vegas. My wife wants to stay at the Luxor again. She's like, she loved the Luxor.
Really?
Yeah. There's all these hotels. I love the Luxor too. I had a great time at the Luxor.
It wasn't a bad hotel. It was a fun
really
hotel.
liked it. We stayed at the Luxor, and then we did MGM as well. MGM is a maze, and it was frustrating as fuck for me. I kept getting lost. Luxor is great. Go to the corner, find the corner, take the corner elevator, there's your room. And then you get to look at the balcony. Like, my wife and I are both ecstatic to go back to Vegas.
Dude, do you know where I want to stay? I want to stay at the horse play. The
horse place. Excalibur?
The Excalibur, yeah.
The night place?
Yeah, the night
You
place.
and Zach both want to stay at Excalibur. Excalibur was cool to walk through. I enjoyed
it seemed
Excalibur.
Fun.
It was cool. I liked. I
just feel like I need to go to
Excalibur.
a new place every single time I go.
Look, if my wife likes Luxor, and we go back to Vegas for trials and for World Championships, she'll get to Luxor. I would like to stay in new places, but she's happy to Luxor. I'm happy to Luxor. So
I get it. I understand.
I got nothing else. Trials was great. I'm not amped to, but I got to edit a bunch of audio for the interviews. Excited to put those out. Excited to share what those athletes had to say, and then excited for the next one. So we got some regular events. I think Fight to Win comes back next week. They're back on Flow. Got a chance to talk to those guys. We're hopefully doing some interviews at Fight to Win here in Baltimore coming up on the 28th of this month. 2 weeks. Hopefully you get a matchup. Hopefully other folks get matchups that we know. So it should be a very, very fun event. Yeah. And as always, anything else?
Nope.
As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine. To my co-host,
Miranda.
And we have the Grappling Rounds, and that's what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.